Hey everybody, this is Pete Hansen here, Pete Hansen Football, and I'm going to have another conversation with coaches. And today I'm in Nashua, New Hampshire, and it's a little bit rainy out, but Coach Jason Robie used to be head coach at Nashua North, the Nashua North Titans.
Yes.
And we're going to have a good conversation today, talk about his experience as a head coach, why he got into coaching, some of the things that he learned along the way, but also some of the things that he would like to pass on to other people. As if you've been watching any of my videos, you know we talk about advice we would give to young guys getting into football, maybe in their, heading into their high school years in 9th grade, but also young guys or gals that might be heading into coaching and some things they might want to think about as they do that, and take some of the wisdom from these coaches I've been talking to. And then finally, maybe a little bit about a legacy. It might be a little early. You and I are about the same age, so
yeah,
talking about legacies feels a little bit premature. But
let's not go there too early.
But maybe we'll get into a little bit of like, hey, what would you hope people think when your name comes up? When they start talking about high school football in New Hampshire, anyways.
Sure.
Okay, so why don't we just start there, Coach? Why don't you just tell me a little bit about how you grew up, where you grew up,
Sure.
how you got into football?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. First of all, for having me on. I've watched some of your shows. You've done a great job, and I think it's important for young coaches and kids to watch these videos so you can kind of see the, you and I talked before this about where was football and where has it come, and what are the things that are kind of lost there a little bit and that we need to get back to. So watch these videos; they're fantastic. But as for me, in the early '80s, I grew up in Allenstown.
Okay.
Which is, you're in Pembroke now, right? So, a stone's throw from Pembroke, in between Hooksett and Pembroke is a tiny little don't blink town called Allenstown.
Yep.
And my dad was actually the coach of the Hooksett Renegades. I grew up playing Hooksett Pop Warner.
Okay.
From 81 all the way till through 8th grade. I played for the Storms, for Mel and Mark Todd at the smallest level, then Jack Murphy at the middle level in the Hurricanes, then my dad at the Renegades.
Okay.
And so when I was done playing Hooksett Pop Warner, I still wanted to play. At the time, Pembroke Academy didn't have football.
No, right.
And so if I wanted to continue to play, I had to find a new home. I was actually enrolled at Trinity High School. I went and picked classes the summer after my 8th grade year and was ready to go. We just had to arrange transportation. Yeah. And we thought we had that figured out, and Trinity called and said they couldn't swing it. And so with about 2 months to go before school started, I needed a new home. And so Bishop Brady became the next place, and I got in at Brady. In Concord, my mom actually worked right next door at was United Life, then Jefferson Pilot Financial, then Lincoln
Chubb
Financial,
Life,
Chubb Life. It just kept, it's good when the stocks divide, right? But I ended up going, she would bring me to Bishop Brady. And my dad, coincidentally, was hired as an assistant coach at Bishop Brady my freshman year. So he followed me, I guess.
Yep.
And it was great. And I played for Mike Blake there my first and second year. My first year there, my second year, a man by the name of Jim McIntyre came in. And by my junior year, my dad was actually hired as the head coach. So we had 3 head coaches in 3 years. Yeah. We had 36 kids in my class, 193 total students.
Yep.
Very small, close to closing the doors. But we put a very, very good program in place. My dad, John Brennan, Bob Pope, Mike Lyons, those guys were kind of the core coaches in the group there. And went to a championship game my senior year, played in the Shrine game. And then back then it was just the Shrine game. There was no East-West game. So, and you played in that too, right? So that was it. And at the time, I think we were class M&S. So there were 3 divisions, L, I, M, and S. And I think we were allotted 6 players from our division.
So if you made that team out of one of those levels, then you were pretty good. 5
of us started.
Yeah.
And arguably the best player in our league didn't start.
Right.
So that tells you that, that based on who was there and his position.
And who's coaching it.
Correct.
Because sometimes they bring some of their guys because they know at least that they know what we're going to be installing.
Right. Yeah. I played for Tom Dobney out of Portsmouth. And Coach Dobney was awesome. And it was kind of like my first, Division I football, or Class L football. It was faster. It was the speed of the game. The physicality of the game was different. And you learned that day one of Pats. And but it was good. I started on that team. I actually scored a touchdown in that game. It was,
all right.
It was pretty
what position?
good. I was a running back, a wing back. So we ran, in high school, we ran the T.
Okay.
And then Coach Dobney ran kind of a bastardized system of the wing T.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't like a true Delaware guy where he called it by the numbers, but it would be, you know, wing right, split, strong, you know, whatever the call would be, and then the play. And it was good. It involved motion.
He ran the I, too.
He did. We got in
some. Because they had Bobby Bost.
That's right. Bost, that's right.
He played up at Plymouth with me.
That's
He's
right.
Captain up there with me. Great running back.
Yep.
And,
he had some great. He had a kid named Jeff
Bobby.
Gray, was a linebacker there, was just played with me at UNH. And actually from that Shrine team, from the Shrine game, there were, I think, 12 or 14 of us that went on to UNH. And went out for the team. You know, walk-ons, a couple of guys.
So that
on
was your next
scholarship.
step.
That was my next step.
You went to UNH?
I went to UNH
as a walk-on?
As a walk-on, and it was, and I'll tell you, my welcome to the big-time moment, you and I spoke about your games in the championship game in 87 and 88, and I was a big football nerd. I was always following other teams. I was at the championship game in 87 and the championship game in 88 because my dad actually was doing stats for Coach Gaddy, Concord High, up in the booth.
That's right.
So that first year we were at Salem, and you guys win 14-7, an upset, if I remember correctly.
In the freezing cold.
It was really cold, and they had a great running back. Salem did Calderon, used to do backflips in the end zone.
Yes.
You guys win 14-7. The next year, they host the game. You guys
Matt
host.
Gazda was the other running back.
Correct, Gazda, that's right.
Yes,
and
they had the dual threat.
The following year, you guys were defending your title at Concord High.
Yep.
You lose 10-9. A young man by the name of...
I was a quarterback in there.
I know you were. Number 8?
Number 8.
That was my college number. Man, that's how I remember, right? So a young man by the name of Justin Fossbender kicked the winning field goal against you guys. I think he was a freshman that year.
He might have been a sophomore.
Okay,
but still, he was too young to be not
winning
feel the pressure
games.
of that game because the field, you know, folks, we're at Holman Stadium, which is a baseball field as well. Back in the day when we played here, it was slightly less better dirt. It's very nice grass here now. Back then, it was pretty rough, but. That day, that state championship game in 1988, it was a rainy week. There was like 6 state championship games played on the field during the week.
That's right.
We had field hockey,
soccer. Yes.
And so it was a very muddy day.
Right.
And he comes out with a minute to play and kicks a 36-yard field goal as a sophomore on a muddy field in the middle of the field.
I remember a young man named Mike.
So kudos to him.
Kudos to him.
It stung then, but it's interesting because I know that Dan Mullen, who was the quarterback
Coach
then, who's big-time coach now, I guess brings a lot of those guys together. Maybe not annually these days, but he used to bring them all together because they had such a great run there. It's kind of a Cinderella story. Like we were the prior year, you know, my junior year, we were 6-3, made it into playoffs and upset 2 teams in a row. But my senior year, we were 9-1, so we were like feeling like we should have had this. And of course, first thing you do when you assume you should win is things don't go right. But great game. It was a great game.
And that's great for kids, right? There's a reason why you play the games. You don't just mail the plaque to the team that has the best regular season record. And kudos to them. But my Justin Fossbender story kind of follows me into college. So I go on my overnight to UNH. And there were a bunch of us that did an overnight. So I know I have a meeting the next morning in Coach Bo's office. He's in the College Hall of Fame. And I played for some great coaches at UNH.
Yes.
You know, I played for Coach Mack, Coach McDonald. Obviously, Chip Kelly was there when I was there. A young man that played that actually is coaching in Canada right now, Coach La Police. Played for Ryan Jones is my defensive back coach. Todd Bradford, who recruited me. I got a great story about him and Troy Brown.
So La Police was at UNH too?
Lapo was a grad assistant. Yes, that's correct.
So he went from Plymouth, because I played with him at Plymouth, so he must have went right over to UNH.
That's correct.
And then Canadian Football League head coach eventually. Yeah.
So it's a small world, right? And a lot of New Hampshire guys have gone on and done very well. Mark Matlack was our defensive coordinator. But I go into my meeting after the sleepover. I almost missed my meeting with Coach Bose because the 2 guys I stayed with, they got me up late or whatever the case was. They get me in the office, and I am nervous as all get out because I'm coming from this little tiny high school, and you're going to at the time, I think the number 10 ranked team in the country.
Big time, yeah.
And he said, "How was your stay?" I said, "It was great, Coach. Thank you so much for having me, all this kind of thing." He said, "Well, we've watched your film." And at the time, I played corner and I played running back.
Yeah.
And so I was a DB and a running back. And he says, we watched your film. We're really impressed with what we've seen. We've been following you all year. Think you're doing a great job and might even give you a chance to play quarterback. And I'm nodding my head and I'm like, and I thought maybe I heard him wrong. And I said, he asked another question. I said, Coach, I apologize. Did you say corner or quarter? And he said, quarterback. I said, Coach, I didn't play quarterback. Who is it that you think I am? And he shuffles through his papers and he goes, you're Justin Fossbender from Trinity High School, aren't you? I said, no, Coach. I said, I'm Jason Robie from Bishop Brady. He says, Robie. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we want you to come too. I'm like, that's my welcome to UNH moment. Sign of things to come, right?
So, that is awesome.
Yeah, that was great. Unless you're 17-year-old Jason Robie,
you must have just been so distraught.
Yeah,
but
man.
also like, okay, what does this really mean, right?
I wish I had won the state championship my senior year.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I played for Coach Bose for 5 years. Coach Bradford recruited me at the UNH camp as a junior, and I went back and I played defensive back there, and I played with some. I played with some NFL caliber players. My first year, Dwayne Saab, Dwayne Gordon.
Dwayne Saab,
Saab played for the Pats.
Played for the Pats.
Yep.
Yeah, defensive end, right?
Yep. Yeah. Dwayne Gordon played for the Falcons for many years. My last year, I played an outgoing fifth-year senior. You're talking Jerry Azuma. Dan Kreider was a Super Bowl ring with the Steelers.
Yep.
And Danny Curran, who's now the head coach at Holy Cross, was at Merrimack. So those guys were all true freshmen or redshirt freshmen my outgoing year. And these guys were, UNH football was very good. And there were a lot of good football players from New Hampshire, that did well there in that window of time. The Concannon brothers from Laconia were outstanding.
Concannon brothers, yes.
Jimmy and Sean, they were great and they were
Jimmy
funny.
Concannon.
He was arguably one of the toughest, best football players that I've ever come across.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that good. But a kid named
I had a roommate from Laconia, Steve Fountain, who knew Jimmy Concannon, played with him, and
Steve Fountain coached at St. Lawrence.
Played at Plymouth. I don't know if he did.
I thought he was
did
coach
some
there,
coaching.
Maybe.
But Fountain, he just couldn't stop bragging about Jimmy Concannon. Of course, back then when we're like, how good could he have been? But
he was that good.
Like every time his name comes up, it's in that context of like probably one of the best athletes come out of New Hampshire.
Did you play with Matt Claflin?
Yes, he was a junior.
So there's a Concannon Claflin story. He actually, on a punt return at UNH, there was a scrum and we were on a punt return and Jim Concannon got mixed up with Matt Claflin at one point.
So against BU?
BU.
Yeah.
And Jim broke his leg and Jim was out for a year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just snapped his leg but he came back the next year stronger, faster, meaner, tougher. I mean, he was such a good player. He was the quarterback of the defense, Jimmy Concannon.
Matt Claflin's an interesting story. Didn't play football until his junior year. Was All-State his first year, defensive end, and his senior year.
Big dude, right?
Big dude. Yeah. So he played tight end and tight end and defensive end. So, and then got a
probably had 5 catches, all for touchdowns.
Full ride to BU.
Yeah.
And back when BU had a team, right?
Yeah.
So, and they had a really good team then because they had a really great quarterback.
They did.
That
Ryan Doherty.
Flutie-like kid. I can never remember his name. Yeah.
Doherty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doherty.
Yep.
Sean Doherty?
Ryan Doherty?
Ryan Doherty.
We beat him 52-51 at their place in 94.
Okay.
And the fans stormed the field. We blocked their extra point. It was overtime. We win 52-51, double overtime. The ball is bouncing around on the ground. Referees run. Everybody storms the field. We win because they couldn't find the football. So game over.
So the game.
We win. Yankee Conference champions.
Yep.
94.
There you go. Yankee Conference.
Yep.
Okay. So you go to UNH. You realize you're around a lot of thoroughbreds.
Boy, oh boy.
But you're hanging, right?
Yeah. I played for 5 years, and my I didn't go on as a scholarship. I was a preferred walk-on. I went to camp, but at the end of my second year, I earned a scholarship.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Good for you.
Thank you. It was not easy.
That's not easy
I'm playing with some dudes, and they're bringing in dudes behind you, too.
Yeah, every
year. It's like I never was a starter, but I played in something like, I don't know, 30 or 40 something straight games, special teams and getting in some nickel and dime stuff. Not a lot, but I knew my place was. And at that time, that I kind of thought I might want to start coaching because the reality is I was majoring as I was going to be a phys ed teacher.
Yep.
I had a phys ed teacher in elementary school that made that big an impact on me, and I really wanted to do that, and I wanted to coach. And so I was, in high school, I was basketball, track, and football. I was actually recruited at UNH to do track, and was going to do both. I was a quarter miler, did pretty well in that, but they wanted to bump me up to the half miler, and I was just like, and football is a full-time job then. So there were some guys that did do it, but I just was like, nah, I don't think so I just did the football thing, but started coaching track at Oyster River my last 2 years at UNH. I'd go over to campus and coach track, and then when I was graduating, my dad, when he got the job at Bishop Brady, was also going against another man named Al Neville. Al Neville is the defensive coordinator at Nashua High School, and they became friends. I don't know if you ever heard of Robie's store, but Al that's my grandparents' store. So Al was a traveling salesman. He sold steel, and he would end up going into Robie's store during the day, getting coffee, and he and my dad would, talk about football, and he would always ask, what am I doing? Well, when I graduated, Coach Neville asked my dad, would he like to maybe come coach in Nashua? And I was like on that in a heartbeat. Really, because I had heard about Nashua, believe it or not, I'd really never been to Nashua, maybe the mall occasionally, but never really come into the city. And so, the city, right?
The city.
So,
the big metropolis.
Yes. So I come to Nashua, I got lost coming here. I missed my meeting with Coach Neville. My first experience at Nashua High School, I walk into the gym of a girls' high school basketball game. Now, I don't know if you know much about girls' basketball, but Nashua High School in 1987 was the #1 team in the country. They were the USA Today national champions under Coach John Fagula. And and this was 96, so he was still at the head, of that program, and they won the state title that year. But I walked into this rabid gymnasium, Belanger Gym, and I could not believe what I was seeing and hearing, and then the sights and the sounds, and the people were going crazy. And Coach Neville had left, but Coach Hardy was there. He was the head coach at the time, and we met for about an hour. He took me into the old freestanding weight room that was not attached to the high school, that was built by the Friends of Nashua High. I met strength coach and offensive line coach Scott Knight, and the three of us had a talk, and Coach Hardy was like, well, even though I don't really think you're one of us, we're going to hire you anyway. So, I come in 96. Coach Neville's the defensive coordinator. And, man, I tell you, when I walked into that locker room that first day and I saw this team, I could not believe the size and strength of some of these kids. This was not my high school.
This wasn't the 80s.
And I'm looking and saying, these kids could play, some of them could play college ball right now. Cole IE, Femi IE. Cole played for the Patriots as a Super Bowl ring. Femi went to Delaware, started 3 years at Delaware. These guys were unbelievable. Aaron Garekis, arguably the greatest athlete I've ever seen, was not even the starting quarterback yet. And so,
plus you had numbers.
Oh, well, we two platooned. A lot of people don't know. So 11 different kids offense, 11 different kids defense. Occasionally we would steal. Like Cole would play some offense and Femi would play some offense, but mostly it was two platoon. And that really was the difference. And the best part about it from a coaching standpoint was I could just coach my guys. I coached the defensive backs. I remember the first day of practice, it was double sessions. You could do that back then. And the first day, real double sessions. Well, Coach Neville,
sometimes triple.
Coach Neville wasn't there. And I went up to Coach Hardy. I said, well, Coach, what would you like me to do? He says, I don't know, whatever you would normally do. So I ran it like a UNH defensive back practice. The drills, the terminology, all the things that I used at UNH, I used in and it actually, by the end of that year, we were disguising coverages. We were in a 2-digit coverage system, rotating on one side to the. We were doing things that I think because in high school teams were running like 3-step drop slants. They were running waggle. I mean, and we would just get run to the boundary and wait. And the routes would come to you. And we would just wait for that action. And I don't know, my first year there, our secondary had like something like in a 12-game, 13-game season, I think we had like 24 interceptions, 25.
Really?
Like we were picking teams because we would get so far ahead. We were so skilled offensively. The other team had to throw the ball and right into the teeth of what we were really good at. Pass rush coming at you, got to get rid of it. Pick. And so it was we go to that championship game in 96. We go to the Londonderry High School and we lose 21-18. And we lose on we miss a field goal. at the end of the game that would have sent it to overtime. But we had our chances, before that.
Yeah.
I'll never say it was that field goal that cost us, because it didn't.
Yeah,
we had our
usually
other opportunities.
multiple things during
we
the
had
game.
other opportunities and we lost. And that's when I kind of changed, I think, as a coach. It was my first year, and I was upset for the kids, but I was upset for myself too. I was like, I was really, because I'm 20, 23, 20, just kind of, you have that ego and you're arrogant and but it's really not about you. And then when you step back and you look at how these kids are just exhausted and defeated and crying and devastated. You knew the juniors were going to come back, but those seniors, that was it for them. And I could relate to that, because my senior year, we lose to Newport 19-18 in overtime.
Yeah.
My head was in the goal line. I didn't get in for the 2-point conversion. So I could relate that to my experience. And
those things you don't forget, so you started to realize like it's at a different level for the player when it's their last year. Like, because I'm always thinking, okay, as a coach, I'll see you guys next year. Yeah. But these guys I won't see, and that's their last experience for a lot of them.
That's right.
Most of them don't go to play college.
No.
Most of them, that's their last experience. So I've been talking to the coaches about, you feel like there's a sense that you have to honor that, like remind yourself of it, because it's easy to forget how quick it all goes by. Yeah. Like you and I have perspective now of like, wow, I wish I kind of appreciated it a little bit more when I was younger, right? But I was also kind of a knucklehead, so my coaches were trying to instill things that I wasn't hearing quite clearly.
Well, and as a coach, you about
you realize that
you realize it as you get old, and you're still. And I'll be honest with you, you're still a knucklehead when you first start, because I'm single. I'm living. I'm living actually right behind Manchester Street. Runs parallel to center field there. Yeah. And I lived right back there. Okay. And I would get up and walk over here to the game, and then downtown is Martha's, and we'd go to the Martha's Exchange at night. It was like Shorty's is about 5 minutes that way, and so, but I'll tell you, the biggest thing is when I stopped coaching, I saw the game differently, and I now people say, would you do it? Of course. You would do things differently. And the reason you say that is because why do you go to clinics and conferences every year? Why are you constantly reading and watching videos? Because you want to get better. So the people that have said they've stopped learning, they haven't stopped learning. But you view things differently. And as you get older, you said it, you have more perspective. You have, you care about what the kids become down the road. In 96, I was just thinking about football. I wasn't thinking about this young man's going to go, going to go into the military, or he's going to, go to Iraq or Afghanistan.
Or he could have 2 kids within the next 5 years. Correct. If he gets married. Like, life's going to be hitting him real quick after 100%. High school.
And people say, what's your best moment? And I tell you, one Thanksgiving day, I got a phone call, Thanksgiving morning, when it was a North-South game, and I got a phone call from a young man stationed in Afghanistan. And he called me on Thanksgiving morning. He had just gotten back from his patrol at night. And,
from Afghanistan.
From Afghanistan.
So he's taking the time.
He called me from Afghanistan. And he said when they get home from their patrols, a lot of the guys like to go out and throw the football around. And they have stories about their high school teams and stuff. And I'm thinking, of all the people to call, on Thanksgiving morning, this young man decided that he would pick up the phone and call me. Yeah. And we talked for about a half an hour. And I couldn't tell you the result of that game. I don't know the score, but I remember that phone call. Yeah. And I realized I must have made a pretty good difference in this kid's life, and at least the memories were good of what he experienced in high school to pick up a football and throw it around. But so in 7 years at the one Nashua High School, we played all of our games here, and that 97 championship game was
get some clarity for the listeners. So Nashua High School, back when it was just Nashua, so big high school, 3,000, 3,500 maybe.
Yeah, and then almost 4,000. The ninth graders didn't go to the high school. They were in what they call a junior high. Yeah. Right, before it went to the middle school model. Now, there was talk before the two high schools split, and some of this is urban legend, myth, I don't know, but this is as I understand it. They were talking about building a campus-type school, like Pinkerton has, very similar to Brockton, a freshman building, a sophomore building, and so forth. And then Columbine happened. Columbine High School. Yeah. And that was around the time a lot of the folks got together and said, maybe we need to have better relationships with our kids and our teachers, get things, keep them together. And how do we do that? Well, one of the models was we create a North and a South. We create two different high schools.
Because it was getting too big to have one.
Yeah.
Because it's like a factory almost. It's so big.
It was, but I'll give you an interesting statistic. I tell this to people all the time, and they kind of shake their head. In the 7 years I was at the one high school, we went to 4 championship games.
Yep.
Our record, 1-3. In the preceding 7 years, South went to 2, North went to 2. So 4 championship games. Their record, 1-3.
All right.
So, there's some, you say, you'll have more talent. Give more kids an opportunity.
That's interesting that after the split, the North and the South, each of them went to state championships after.
That's right.
With the team basically split in half, you assume, right? Yeah. So half the kids go here. So it's fascinating that they were able to get that good that quick.
South was a little bit ahead of the curve. They, I remember, and again, you're naive. I applied for the job for North, and I got the job, and I put my coaching staff together. I brought on some kids that had played for me. One of them is now the principal at Nashua South. One of them is now the head coach at Nashua North.
Yeah.
So I brought in police officers. Yeah. I brought in teachers. I brought in educators. I had college players on my staff. Yeah. I had kids people that were affiliated with the city. So the first thing you do is you got to build a great staff, right? A communicating staff.
Okay.
Make sure you find an offensive line coach too. That's the big one. But we put
overlooked.
Oh my
young
gosh,
coaches.
Oh my gosh. We had one, Chad Zabolis, and he's now the head coach at North. He's awesome. But we thought we looked at the schedule. We're going to be 5-0 after 5 weeks. We were 1-4, and it wasn't that close. Okay. We were getting pummeled, and we had the one win, and it was just, what are we doing wrong? What do we need to do differently? Well, when you look at the roster, we had 3 kids with varsity experience from the split. 3.
Okay. So the split wasn't an even split.
Oh gosh,
it was like
split
right down the middle, but South got the better half.
Thanksgiving, well, they did. They knew what they were doing.
Country song, the divorce song.
That's right. So Thanksgiving Day that year, we go out there, and you'll appreciate this. South had beaten us during the regular season. And we finished the season 1-8, 1-9, whatever it was. Yeah. South had like 3 or 4 wins. And I installed the tee.
Keep the ball in the clock.
That's it. That's it.
So we are in Nashua North High School, home of the Titans.
Home of the Titans. Coach? Yeah, Navy
Coach and
Columbia.
Are, connecting for the second time.
Yes.
So I think you had a different shirt on.
I do. I didn't know if I was supposed to wear the same thing or not for part 2.
I was thinking about that on the way down, but no, this is great. So we were over at Holman Stadium last time, and now we're at the high school. Yeah. And earlier in the video, you heard that Nashua was one high school, and now it's a North and South high school. So right. North right now.
Yeah. So and as we were talking about before this became Nashua North, the year before North opened, the Nashua High upperclassmen came here, and they actually spent the year here while they renovated Nashua South.
Interesting.
And so the first group to actually, occupy the school were Nashua High upperclassmen. Okay. And then the following year in 2004, when North officially opened as Nashua North, those students went back to South. They were now South.
So how did that work for you? Were you teaching? Were you at one of the...
So I was teaching, at the time, elementary school at a school called Sunset Heights. It's actually right next door to Rivier College.
Okay.
And I was there for 6 years. And when this job became available, because I was coaching at Nashua High, the one high school, I decided to put in for it. I applied for it. And in the interview process, I said, if I should get the job, I would love to teach in the building as well. Yeah. If I don't get the coaching job, I would still love to teach in the building, because I think it's important to have your coaches in the building to make those connections, throughout the course of the day. And as luck would have it, I ended up getting both jobs, and it was a baptism of fire that first year. We took it on the chin, quite a few, and I think the last time we spoke.
So that's where we left off, was right around year 1. You're the head coach at Nashua North, right here. So let's pick up there.
Okay.
But before you jump into the actual season, I think you had mentioned your coaching staff.
Yeah.
So you went and got what you thought was like an all-star group of
I thought
guys.
So. And it turned out to be, so.
But that's interesting, because from a coaching perspective, right? Getting your staff in line, setup is the one of the big things you got to do.
Well, so rewinding back, I had a real good education in coaching responsibilities when I came to the one high school. And I coached with some great guys. And I talked about Coach Neville and Coach Duquette and Coach Stump and Coach Hardy. Those guys were instrumental. And they taught me a lot of the things and the way that I coached. I also, from my experience in college, there were some things that I wanted to do a little bit differently. But I did know that the first thing you needed to do, and this was from Coach Hardy and Coach Neville, was make sure you get an offensive line coach. And Coach Knight was one of the best. Coach Knight was one of the best.
The line coach.
And so he was the head coach at Nashua South. Scott Knight. He just retired. You get some great stories from him too. He's at Plymouth State now, your alma mater.
Might have to add him to the list.
But so when I was putting the staff together, so Nashua at the time was a junior high mentality. So our ninth graders were actually in the 3 junior highs. It wasn't a middle school per se yet, but the ninth graders were going to be coming. So there was junior high football. Well, those junior high football programs were no longer going to be a thing because we're going to have freshman ball up here and at Nashua South. So what would end up happening is I ended up inheriting some of the middle school coaches or the junior high coaches that then inevitably came here. And they were great. Don Forney, late Don Forney, who just passed away this past year, but he was my head freshman coach along with Ron Welliver. And, we talked about having great coaches. I put both of those gentlemen were police officers here in the city. So I had police officers, I had former college players, guys that were graduates of the one Nashua High, guys that had coached over with me at Nashua High. Some of them came this way.
So local roots in most of the guys. And
that's important, right? Because not being from the city of Nashua myself.
To give back.
I just think, and
officers and
the current head coach here now, Chad Zabolis, he's a Plymouth State guy. He ended up coming with me. He was my offensive line coach, and the now principal at Nashua South, Keith Richards, was my defensive line coach. So I brought 2 Nashua football guys in with me. I had the police officers. I had a gentleman by the name of Bruce Bradshaw, who actually played at Pitt for a year. Was on the same team as Dan Marino, actually. So he was my offensive coordinator.
Early 80s?
Another local guy, Sean Obbett.
Pitt was great back then.
They were. They definitely were.
Hugh Green on defense.
And we met, in that room that we just walked by, and we looked at the schedule early on, and we thought, we've got something pretty good here. And we look at it, we could be 5-0. Well, we were 1-4 after the first 5 weeks. And it was just, you don't know what you don't know. And you look back at it and you say, boy, we were trying to, we had a system and a style that we wanted to play, and it really didn't gel with what we had. And what we had was
for players,
for players. You got to kind of, we wanted to model ourselves. Manchester Central at the time was in the midst of four state titles in a row. And they were just loaded. They were in a pro I formation, tight end, flanker, split end, I formation, heavy fullback. And that's what I ran in college.
School I.
And so I thought, this is kind of what we're going to do, and we're going to hang our hat on that. And it really, there was, here we come, and everybody knew that. So offensively, we struggled. Defensively, we did okay, but we were playing a lot of defense. So it was a matter of time before the wheels came off the wagon. And so that first year, we had 3 kids that had varsity experience. And so going into that's when the Turkey Bowl split too. It was always Bishop Girton and Nashua High, and then with the advent of the second high school, or actually, I trip over that a little bit, 2 new high schools. A lot of people think that even though Nashua High South are the Panthers, they're really 2 different schools. And a lot of people still, they kind of took the identity of Nashua High School, but really they're their own animal. To the point where a lot of the coaches over there are saying, hey, we need to retire the track records and the swim records and those things here because we need to start our own thing. And so, but so now with 2 new schools with new identities, we had the 3 kids with varsity experience. We go into that first Turkey Bowl having lost to South during the regular season. I think it was like 17-13. It was a close game, but South, I think, had 4 wins that year, and we had the 1 coming into the game. Well, we wholesale changed the whole thing. Going into the Turkey Bowl, we had a couple of weeks, and I installed something very similar to the T. It was the same vernacular, but I made it look like out of a power I. So we would still run the T plays out of the power I. There was still the fake,
Full
the
back.
waggle. It was all the same thing, but we had the ability to run our I plays to the right if we wanted to out of that same formation. We would just cut the splits down.
So now you're making the defense to...
So now you've got to prepare. And we caught South off guard. We win that game 33-14. And a lot of people think that was the actual birth of our program, because a lot of those kids in that game were juniors and sophomores who were starting. So we knew we had everybody back the next year.
Right, okay.
The following year we come back, we win our first 5 games out of the gate.
Nice.
But we play the brass the last 3 weeks,
Yeah.
including a Foxborough Mass team that won the Super Bowl that year. And they were all that in the bag. I mean, they were very good.
Yeah.
So I think we finished the season 6-3. We lose out on a tiebreaker for the last playoff spot against Manchester Central.
Jeez.
Our quarterback that year was Casey Hobson, Butch Hobson's son. And he was a starting quarterback for us as a freshman.
Red Sox.
Red Sox
player, and then
he managed at the Nashua Pride for years here in the city.
Right.
And you know, we had this thing going in a pretty good direction. The investment in this room that we stand in was phenomenal. And the one thing that we preached to the kids, you know, was your investment should equal your expectations.
Right.
And if they, you know, if you want to get to that next level and you have that thought, then you better do what it takes to get to that point. And you can see up here, and these pictures have changed through the years. These are, I think most of these kids are from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Many of them have graduated as well. But Coach Zabolis has done a nice job continuing the tradition of putting the pictures up on the wall of the players. And, you know, we try to make this, feel like their second home. Because you can't do it if you're not.
Hope it becomes
talent
that.
will only take you so far, right? Talent's a great thing.
I'm learning that more and more, especially at the high school level now. And you know, back when we played in the 80s, it wasn't really.
No, it was none of that.
Like,
there was no 7-on-7. There were
sevens.
There were a couple of camps you might go to if you didn't have to go to the beach that day.
But on the flip side, most of us were 3-sport athletes too.
We played year round.
Yeah.
We played year round. Now we still promote that here, but that's kind of that's an uphill battle. And that's the message we try to give to kids is that, look, college coaches, at least in football, they want well-rounded multi-sport athletes, because the kid that's just a baseball pitcher, when he gets into the playoffs for the first time, he's never had that pressure before. He's never felt that.
Yeah.
But if you play basketball and you play football or you wrestle or you do track, you've felt those pressures before. You know how to work different kinds of, intensities and so forth.
And you're using your body very differently in each of those
Your cross-training. Remember cross-training when we were growing up was a big thing. And that's really...
Cross-training, right.
That's really kind of what we call it functional training now. Like what kind of lifts are we going to do that are going to better our movement on the football field?
Yeah.
Sitting down to do bicep curls on a Nautilus machine, that's not going to give you much. That's not, you can't, it doesn't really translate.
Yeah.
And so... they have Scott Prunier, who's one of the best in the business now, working with the team here with their off-season training program. They just tested last week. Numbers are really, really good. But it doesn't guarantee wins. All it does is it gives you a chance.
Yes.
It takes your kids that might not be great football players and really make them stronger so that they kind of lessen that gap. It takes your good football players and give them a leg up.
Plus, you're building that camaraderie and the relationships.
100%.
The guys are together more frequently, and then season comes around, everybody's sort of locked in and know each other really well.
Yeah,
especially
for
the
sure.
young guys, right? Because the young guys, it's like a brand new world coming from a different school usually, right? And now I'm a small fish all over again, and I got to make friends.
And one of the things we started doing was bringing the 8th graders up here that were going to be freshmen.
Yeah.
Because we want to give them a sense heading into the summer of what the weight room is like, and kind of introduce them and really put the parents' minds at ease too, because parents are, look, my son or my daughter, they really haven't lifted weights or been in this kind of an environment before, and we want them to rest easy knowing we're going to teach them the right things to do and so forth. And so
you had a 6-3 first season.
Second season. Second season.
But you were running the T functionally, but out of the power I. So you could run your eye.
Yeah.
And then, but it sounds like you were already pretty intentional about building a culture.
We did.
And realizing you got a good opportunity because it's a new school.
Yes.
Clean slate almost.
It was an opportunity to, you go in with an identity, but I think we talked about it in the first interview, you have to be willing to adjust, to change. The minute you think you have all the answers, and you don't need to learn anymore, it sneaks up on you. And so we were, it was very organic. We turned it from a 5-2 team to a 4-front. We went to an even front. We started in a 4-4, and then we progressed to a 4-3. Yep. That was before everyone was running the 3-4, but we were a 4-3 team and a 4-2-5 now. Well, and then kind of fast forward to 2008. The head coach of Manchester Memorial at the time was a man named Dante Lorendi. Now, Dante had a cup of coffee at Manchester Central coaching. He coached collegiately, at BU before they canceled football, at St. John's. But he was running the spread over at Memorial. You could throw a rock from here and hit Dante's house. Matter of fact, I do it on occasion. No, Dante and I one night were I don't remember where we were. I think we had played them at Memorial, and Dante said, "You want to come by the house after you leave North?" And I said, "Sure." So my wife and I went over, and we were sitting around talking about the game. Had we not won, I probably wouldn't have gone, but we won the game. So I went, "Sure, I'll come over." And so we went over, and he said, "Wouldn't it be funny if I, came to North and kind of ran the offense?" And I was thinking, that's really the kind of thing we need here right now, because defensively we were coming along okay. We just were having trouble, and I didn't. In the back of my mind, it was always, the T formation is great, but I don't know that it's going to bring us the kids that we have in the building. Like, we can still run parts of it, but it would be great if we had something that was a little, not flashy, but basketball on grass, they were calling it at the time, right? And so he brought the spread to North. I hired him here at North. He got a teaching job at North. And in 2008, we were 500, but we missed the playoffs by probably 7 points. I mean, we were there, and we were playing really good football, and we knew in 2009 we were going to have a bunch of dudes. It was very similar to that first year to the next year. It was very similar to that, except we were pretty good, and we knew that we had some sophomores that were going to be juniors that were going to be even better. We probably averaged, I want to say, 275 up front on the offensive line, 6'4", 6'5". And these guys were not, these guys could run and move. We had a young man by the name of Andre Williams. Andre is still playing professionally right now in the IFL, I believe it is. He plays for the Green Bay Blizzard. He led the league in kickoff returns. Still playing. And he graduated in 2011, I believe it was. So, but Andre played, and he was fantastic. We had a young kid named Jamar Gathright. A young man named Dylan Broder, one of the best athletes I've ever seen, a quarterback named Brandon Karkanis, and we got all the way to the championship game where we faced Coach Gaddy and a straight T. And during the regular season, we were hanging with them, and then they kind of pulled away from us a little bit after halftime. We did not have Andre Williams for that game, so we felt like going into that second game, the championship game, we were going to make some changes, make some adjustments, and we might have a shot. We're going to make them have to throw the ball to beat us. And sure enough, we shut the run game down. Problem was their quarterback threw for 3 touchdowns. And so we lose the game 28-21, and arguably one of the greatest high school catches I've seen.
I was going to say, did the tight end?
Canoni ran down. Our free safety was right there on him. And it was, because when Gaddy's going to throw the ball. It's like as soon as you get to the 50-yard line, he's going to throw the ball. We're not going to punt. So he runs a route. I think that it was the tight end on the corner or whatever it was, and the kid threw it. It was a beautiful ball.
Practiced against it 5-10 times a day.
Our free safety is from me to you on the play. And the kid goes up and he makes, like I said, for about 1/10 of a second as I'm standing on the sideline, I just said, what a great catch. And then in that same breath, we just lost the state title. It was probably, there was under a minute to go, and we tried to do some stuff. But it was a game that we were winning. We were winning that game, and we were controlling it. We took the air out of the football in the first half. And then they started bringing people in the box, and now we started throwing the ball around. So it was kind of a reversal of
real chess match.
We lose that game, and I remember joking with a lot of those kids from Salem and Coach Gaddy. I wish I could hate those kids, but they were so nice. They were great kids.
Yeah.
You know, the Max Jakes and the Jareks and Fedricks and the Canonis and those guys were just great kids. And I would see them at the postseason banquets and stuff. And they would come over to my table and say, "Coach, how you doing? Wanted to congratulate you on the," and I'm just like, I wish I could hate you guys, but I couldn't. So that sets us up for 2010, and we have basically everybody back.
Just one more thing on that 2009, because being able to shut down those two running backs is a feat in itself, because nobody did that year except for you guys in that game.
In that game, with the exception, and there's an asterisk next to this now. Jake's runs, I believe it was a 36 off tackle, and he's running down the sideline. Our guy Andre Williams comes over and dives for him, and if you watch the film back, you can see him running out of bounds. But the referee didn't call him out of bounds because he was probably thought that the trap had the ball, and he probably missed it. Him, right? And you can see everybody on the sideline pointing to the side with their arms up. That it was probably inevitable they were going to score on that drive. But the point was, I don't know if he scored on that one. So, but anyway, it was a great game. Because
I think Coach Gaddy too at that point had broken the tee a little bit and run more of a wing at times.
They were going wing, a slot, same things. Yeah, they'd open it up. Everything was still kind of the same.
When I was talking to him, it was one of those things where he realized he had to adjust.
Yeah.
Guys, teams are getting too used to the straight tee, the reads. Everything was pretty scripted. So throw in a couple wrinkles there. But yeah, two great running backs.
Well, if you have those kind of dudes, and it was funny because we would have the conversation, and of course, me being the tee guy that I was, the coaching staff were all the opinion, can you imagine if those guys ran the spread? And I looked at every one of them and I said, why? Yeah. Why would you?
Why?
These guys are averaging 500-something yards a game. Like, why do you need to?
The best backs in
why
the
do you
state.
need to? Yeah. Right? But they probably would have thrived in any environment they were in. They were just really special.
Yeah. So you make it to the state championship in year 3.
Yeah.
And probably
a little further along. I think it was year 5. And I gave us, and that was one of the questions in the interview. How long will it take? And I said, well, we're starting with 3 varsity players. Yeah. It's going to take us a couple of years to just figure things out. Yeah. And then hopefully by year 5, we're in the playoffs. Yeah. And as it turns out, we're in the championship game.
So, and then you probably quickly realize too that getting to the state championship doesn't happen every year.
Not easy. Hard. You have to give it to the coaches that have been doing it for as long as they have and have had the success that they've had, because it is not easy. No. And like I said, we had everybody back, and we were ready to make another run at this thing. We were the preseason number 1 in 2010. We were opening up with the preseason number 2 in Winnicott. They were Division 2, but and we jump out on them 21-0 at one point. Okay. And they beat us in overtime. It's like we fell asleep. I don't know. Yeah. And it was funny. I remember reading a quote from Brian O'Reilly at Pinkerton Academy, because we played them the next week, and he said, "What did you think of the North Winnicott game?" And he said, point blank, he goes, "Looked like North got bored." Yeah. And and coach, and that's exactly right. We became complacent. Winnicott wasn't going to quit. They kept playing, and they had a great team that year. They go to the championship game in Division 2. And we were playing with some heavy hearts at that time. And you and I spoke earlier. Yeah. We had a young man who was hurt in the preseason. He broke his neck, and he was down in Atlanta rehabbing a life-altering injury. And so,
hard to get back on it after something like that, because everybody pauses and says, "Hey, life is fragile. Life is fragile. I remember. It is a sport.
Yeah, it is.
But everybody knows it's a contact sport.
I think for us it was a matter. And again, we tried to manage, not micromanage, but we thought, we had everything as it needed to be, and then sometimes things just happen. I had one parent say, "There's a reason why the word accident exists," but as the head coach. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And so I remember talking to my athletic director, and I remember saying to him, the day that happened, I don't know where I am right now. I don't know how I feel. I don't know. He says, "I need my head coach to be a head coach right now." And I just needed something. And I just, we met with the team that following Monday, and we laid out the plan. And as hard as it was, the kids responded. And
Yep.
You know, we would send the young man videotapes of every game.
Yeah.
We would would communicate with him, let him know how the team was doing. And it was good. And some coaches around the state did some fundraisers as well. And we were doing fundraisers here. The University of New Hampshire did a great fundraiser for him as well. You know, with our connections there. It was good, but it was
hard.
It was a hard season. And I remember we ended up playing Nashua South in the semifinals. So that was the first time the two teams would meet, you know, in the playoffs.
Yep.
And they had beaten us in the regular season. And so I think a lot of people thought South was going to handle us and they were going to go to the title game. And Salem and Pinkerton were playing again.
Yeah.
So, you know, people thought it was going to probably be a Salem and South championship game.
Okay.
As we all know, Pinkerton upset Salem. They beat them.
Yeah.
And we beat South. We kind of had a good defensive game plan put in for them, and they couldn't figure it out to the second half. And by then it was too late. And we also had Andre Williams, who ran for 5 touchdowns and 255 yards.
That helps.
So we go to our second title game against Pinkerton, a team that we had beaten 33-7 in the regular season.
Yep.
And again, I go back to the Coach O'Reilly quote.
Yeah.
He said, you know, back in 2000, and I believe it was 2007, Nashua South beats us, and we come back in the title game and beat them at their place. So it's a long season. Teams change.
Yeah.
And he was right. We were averaging close to probably 36 points a game. We lose that game 14-7. And it was 7-7 all the way through. We were snake bit. There were 2, I say phantom holding calls in the goal line, like we're going in for 2 touchdowns. We get called for holding on like the 1. Okay. But it is what it is. And it was, and you know, so you got to figure out a way to get in there now from the 12-yard, the 11-yard line or whatever it is. And we couldn't do it. And Pinkerton played great defense that day. And we lose.
Isn't that interesting too, that sometimes 2 big powerhouses that score a lot suddenly in a title game go down to,
that's usually
like my senior year, 10-9 against Trinity. We were averaging 30 plus points a game. They were too.
Yeah.
And 10-9. Yeah. Who would have thunk it? Right?
The second time through is usually a little bit different because you've had time to scout and watch the film, and you know the players. And to Pinkerton's credit, they you know, I always tell young coaches, coach what you know. Do what you do. Don't try to do things you're not familiar with. Yeah. And that's always the recipe. You know, Pinkerton went back to a defense that they always ran. They didn't try to create some mad scientist thing. They went back to their 4-3 cover 2. Yeah. And they lived and died by it. And they did a good job. And you know, it was just one of those things where you knew right from the get-go the day wasn't going to go your way.
As planned.
We you know, they fumble on their first possession, we recover it. Team's running off the field, the referee signaling first down Pinkerton. Well, he pointed the wrong way. So Pinkerton got the ball back. They had just fumbled to us. So our defense had to go back on the field. The referee, no, Pinkerton ball. They score on that drive.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, so
then you're like, okay, here we go.
It's just not meant to be.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a long year. And sometimes, you know, people ask me, what's the most fun you ever had coaching? And people always think it's that, you know, those championship years. And while those are great for their own reasons, I always tell people year 1. I mean, we had so much fun coaching year 1, that group who had no idea how to play football.
Yeah.
I mean, we were teaching kids how to play football, how to get in stances. And then to come out and win that Thanksgiving Day game, propelling you into that next year. Yeah. Those years are fun. You know, some of those 500 teams, those teams that were 500 in 2012 and 2008, those teams were great kids that just missed, you know?
People don't realize that if you've coached long enough like you have, right? There's sometimes not much of a difference athletically or otherwise from teams that go 5-5 or 8-2.
100%.
And it's a couple of fumbles. It's a muff snap on an extra point.
That's right.
Crying out.
That's right. Yep.
It's sometimes minimal, but the coach knows that. Like, Coach Gaddy was good about pointing that out too, and Coach Cameron of like, you don't, you know, wins and losses aren't everything. You hang your hat on, did the guys work hard? Did they come out and play? Did they play for their teammates? And then ultimately, what did they become in life, right? Because at the end of the day, while Nashua's had some guys go on to a higher level,
we've had some
probably
dudes
more than a lot. Pinkerton probably another one. But for the most of them, that's their high school career's and they go on to their professional life, whatever that is.
We've had some guys playing the NFL. We've had some guys play major. I've had the opportunity to coach a couple of guys that have played in the NFL.
Yeah.
And one guy has a Super Bowl ring, and one guy made it.
Crazy.
Played here.
From
Kendall Reyes from here. You're right.
Yeah.
And Cole.
So you can do it, guys.
It can be done. But I will tell you, those guys, they lived in this room.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to coach an Olympian. Laura Garrity went and threw the shot put for the United States of America. She was the national indoor champion in high school.
Yeah.
She was a level 10 gymnast before they told her she couldn't do gymnastics anymore. So she took all of those skills, translated it to throw in the shot put. And it did. It was a great transition for her.
Yep.
Brad Zepenis, who went and played baseball at Boston College, played football for me for 1 year, but played baseball at Boston College, got picked up by the Mets, or the Cubs, played for the Cubs organization. So it can be done.
There's a lot of talent
but those kids were the first ones in and the last ones out.
Sort
you
of
have to have that
breed.
talent. Yeah, a different breed.
There's a few, and we talk about that too, Coach. Did you experience that? It sounds like you did early on, where you had a core group of guys that were just stellar athletes.
Yes.
But then you probably had some seasons where culture carried the team to victories.
For better or worse, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes there are things that no matter how hard you try, it's that lightning in a bottle. Sometimes you catch it, sometimes you don't. You hope that there's good transition, but you're losing that group of seniors.
Yeah.
And if that group of sophomores, it's going to take them a year, you might be relying on a small junior class. You never know. The one thing I always tell people was after that terrible tragedy in 2010, we actually had more kids come out for the team in 2011.
Okay.
Which was, and it wasn't because we had played in a championship game. And as a coaching staff, we kind of felt, okay, people believe in the things that we're doing. The parents, are confident in the things that we're teaching these kids and the whole thing. And, but again, there was no guarantee because we had lost a great graduating class and we took our lumps that next year.
Right.
So, it's one of those deals.
Let me, all right. So rounding out your time here as the head coach, it was a total of how many years?
Oh boy. 11 years, I think. 04 to 14. Was that 11? Yeah, the 14th season.
Yep.
So 11 years coaching. Yeah.
And in how many state championship games?
2 state title games.
Yep.
Unfortunately lost them both.
Yep.
But again, the goal when I took the program, when we started the program, and a lot of people thought we should not have played a varsity schedule when we started because we just didn't have the players. And, it was like, well, at some point we're going to have to get in there. And maybe, playing those games that first year helped us, transition because we knew what we had to do in order to compete against those elite teams. And so, 2 championship games, and the idea was we get to the playoffs by year 5. We were in the title game by year 5.
Yep.
We go back year 6. A couple of other good years in there, never quite got back to the level, but everything kind of worked in cycles. And when I got out in, I believe 2014, I think was my last year. By 2020, the team was back in the championship game, and we ended up winning it. And so, 3 titles, 3 title games, I should say, in Division I in a very short amount of time. In a very short amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
And
incredible feat.
And again, half the talent divided goes to South and half goes to North. And so, we think we built something pretty good here. That last game was a Turkey Bowl game. And, I felt like I did everything, the days leading up, I was at peace with the decision I made. I wanted to go in a different direction.
You knew you were going to be done.
I knew I was done. No, I went into the year and my athletic director knew that this was it for me.
Okay.
And I didn't really tell the kids because it's not about me, but I just want to let them know. And so we end up, not having the best of years and we talked in the first interview, ego, a lot of coaches have ego, and you have to a little bit. You have to some degree feel like what you're doing.
You got to manage it.
And you have a short memory because you may have gotten whooped on Friday night. By the time Monday rolls around, you think you got a shot against the next team. You put that away. We found out the magic formula or whatever. But, I knew I was tired. I knew that I wanted to go in a different direction. I had young kids at the time. I wanted to spend more time with my family. And I wanted to go, I wanted to pursue some TV stuff, some live streaming stuff, get involved with play-by-play, color commentary, that kind of thing. And I became the head teacher in the district for phys ed and health, so that was another responsibility. And I just...
So it's starting to get pulled in a lot of different directions, but also wanted to turn the page a little bit.
I think change is good in a lot of ways. I think it's good for you as a coach. I think it's good for players that maybe need a little change of pace, and I knew that was a good time for me.
You had a young family at that time,
At that time, my kids were young and going through their own sports and teams and dancing. And
your wife?
My wife
sacrificed quite a bit.
Oh, well, she's a heck of a runner. She's going to run the Australian Marathon for iFit.
Oh, really?
iFit in a couple of weeks. She was chosen by iFit to go run.
Awesome.
She was on the elite starting line for the Boston Marathon 3 times, I think. Right. So she's an accomplished runner. She was a great coach too in her own right at Bishop Girton, and so that's how we met. But she really she allowed me. Tammy Robie. Yep.
Tammy Robie.
She was a great runner at UMass Lowell.
Okay.
Her maiden name was Brooks, but she allowed me to do those things. She allowed me to coach, and a lot of that credit goes to her because there were late nights when she was home alone with the kids or home alone with a sick child, and I was,
And every weekend during the season.
Every weekend.
Friday game, or you're scouting.
Yep. So you have to have a supportive, a supportive spouse, and I did, and it wasn't always easy. It was, I mean, it was hard. And any coach that tells you it's not hard, they're probably lying to you because it is hard. It just is, right? And so
you decided to turn the page and move on and try some other things.
Yeah.
And you were getting tugged in a little different ways with work and stuff. So those are the life choices coaches all have to make.
That's right.
So as we think about though, as you look back, I always ask the 3 questions. One about, good advice you would give to a young guy, maybe getting into his high school years, things to think about. A young coach or someone who wants to get into coaching and what they should think about. And then also maybe a little bit about your legacy. You and I are about the same age, so it's kind of weird to think about legacies, but...
We're old.
But,
we're old.
right. Yeah. But to reflect back and I always say, what would you hope comes up when your name comes up in mixed company in a conversation? You hope they say these types of things about me. So
I hope
about that.
I hope the kids feel like we cared, like it was more than just X's and O's, wins and losses. I hope they took things other than that, life lessons, and it sounds cliche-ish, but really we were preparing young men and in some cases women, for the real world. And when you play football, a sport like football, there are a lot of demands. In today's day and age, I would tell kids, don't go putting yourself on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and X or Twitter, whatever they're calling it these days, before you've accomplished something. And then when you accomplish something, let it speak for itself. Things that you get. 2, play multiple sports. And I know that's an old adage thing, but I think it prepares kids more for life after their seasons and their sports careers are over, because you're going to work with different kinds of people. You're going to work at different jobs. You're going to have different expectations, and playing for different teams helps you kind of.
And it's such a great experience in itself.
For sure, yeah.
Go into football, and then I went into hockey. And I did play baseball up through my sophomore year, but after that, I was working in the springs. But it was just nice to now it's a different crew of guys I hang with. Some of them were football players too, but most of them weren't. And it was I just enjoyed that experience.
And those experiences help give you fuel for or ideas and thoughts and ways to look at things differently in another part of your life. Like you may not have experienced something in football, but you got something from hockey that you can throw at your day-to-day, your livelihood.
Right.
And so I think those things are important. And the last thing for kids, is just the investment. It is an investment. Investment, and we said this earlier, investment should match your expectation. If you come in here and you don't test well lifting, but you didn't invest anything in the off season, you shouldn't be mad.
Right.
You didn't invest anything. Yeah. So now if you work your butt off, you work your tail off all summer long, and you get buried by the weight you thought you would get, then you can be upset and kind of go the route to try and and fix it. And just because you invest, and you know this too, as a coach and as a former player, just because you invest doesn't mean the return is always going to be what you want. They're not guaranteed. And so that's part of life too. For coaches, I would say this. It's tough. I don't think we have anybody that's going to be the Chuck Lenahans, the Brian O'Reillys, the Bill Balls, the Skip Swazinskis, guys that coach. I mean, Jimmy Lozon maybe 40. At Londonderry has enough fuel in the tank. He might be that guy. But I think they're few and far between because the expectations are so much more on these coaches. We live in an environment, in a world where social media, we are a lot of brave people behind a computer screen, behind their cell phone.
Keyboard jockeys.
Right. But as a coach, these are the things you have to deal with on a day-to-day and night-to-night. One thing they do here great every year is our athletic director, Lisa Jingers, brings in kids that are playing in college and tell parents, here's what you can expect if you expect to play in college. And
gives them a little perspective.
It's beyond a lot of what these kids think because, again, big fish, small pond kind of thing. But the one thing I would share with coaches is, and players and parents alike, I'll leave it with this. When I was my first year at the University of New Hampshire, my defensive backs coach was a man named Todd Bradford. He recruited me. And I think I told you in the first interview, he ended up coaching at Kansas, at Oklahoma State. He was the D-backs coach at UNH. And the first week of the season, my first year, we were playing Marshall University. The Thundering Herd.
We are Marshall.
They are 1 or 2 in the country at the time in 1AA is what it was called. We're going down there to open their new stadium, right? We were ranked 9th, I think, in the country at the time, 8th or 9th. So it's 2 versus 9, 1 versus 9, whatever it was. So it's going to be a great game. We lose that game on a 2-point conversion. We don't convert, and we lose by a point. Marshall wins, place goes wild. They had a young man on that team, you may remember the name, Troy Brown. Troy Brown was a receiver for Marshall, and he scored a couple of touchdowns against us. And there was one play in particular, we had great corners. We had a kid named Greg Lewis. He was 6'2", 190, ran and jumped like a gazelle. And I think Greg may have bit on an out and up against Troy Brown. And Troy Brown turns it up, and he catches a touchdown. We were invited over to Coach Bradford's house for a dinner on Monday after every game. And he and his wife, they lived on campus with their kids. They would cook in the kitchen, and we would all sit in front of the VCR and watch the game back.
Rewind it.
We're watching Troy Brown run up the field, score a touchdown, and there's probably 12 of us in that room at that time waiting for spaghetti and meat sauce, right? We start laughing at Greg Lewis because he got beat, and he, and it's like, whatever, and we're laughing and poking fun. Coach Bradford comes out of the kitchen. He's got a spaghetti strainer in one hand and a wooden spoon in the other. He goes, "You think that's funny, men? You think that's funny? I got to tell my kid why he can't have a bike for Christmas this year." And back into the kitchen he goes. And at that moment, it hit me. This man's livelihood is based on how 17, 18, 19-year-old kids play a game. And so that's his livelihood, right? That new SEC thing on Netflix, the SEC coaches, it's not a matter of, if you get fired. It's when you get fired. And so, and if
you're tied to a head coach, the head coach gone, pretty much the whole staff's gone.
So I think what happens is as coaches, as young coaches, and again, young coaches are from that instant gratification generation where they want it now. So if you don't win right now, and you're finding it in the workforce, people aren't staying in their jobs long enough. They don't have purpose, so they go to find something else. And I think coaches, it's the same thing. They're not winning right away, so I got to go find something else. And really, that's just the kind of maybe the way that they grew up and how things were.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, Coach, because Coach Gaddy mentioned something about that too, right before he retired. He said right around 2009, he started to notice some changes in guys not willing to put in the work or be part of if they weren't getting playing time or if they weren't getting something out of it more than just being part of the team, which in prior years, and we don't want to paint with too broad a stroke because a lot of guys are all in, but there was some tide changing there where it seemed like if I wasn't going to be on the field enough, then I really didn't want to be part of it. When we played, it was I'm just going to be here until I get on the field.
Until I get on the field.
And if it's the kickoff team,
100%.
I'm going to be one of the meanest guys on that team.
Absolutely right.
Like that was like, all right, I got a seat at the table.
Pete, when you and I were playing, when a coach told you to do something, you did it. Now, when a coach tells you to do something, it's, well, why? So now you have to, as the coach, now you have to explain why this has to be done. So you have to, and when you and Coach Gaddy did it for many years, high level, championship level football at two different schools, and actually was at Trinity before he went to Concord, before he went to Salem. So a lot of championship pedigree there, and you just know when you know that my message, and this, you get a little long in the tooth, and maybe the message isn't kind of getting to where you need it to be, and know thyself. And if you aren't willing to change what you do, then it is time to get out. And if you are willing to change, there's no guarantee that it works because you're out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? You're trying something different. You're putting something out there.
And there's, again, going back to not painting too broadly, it's good that kids ask questions now to some degree to try to understand. Because back in the day, too, we were told, go run through that brick wall, and most of us would try to.
That's right. Coach knows best.
Hurt, right?
Coach knows best.
So there's some good to that, but it seems like it's like most things, right? The pendulum swings, and it swings a little too far out, and then it has to come back in a little bit. Because I think what the end result is, kids have expectations, like you said, and then when those aren't met, then they don't want to play. So the expectation has to be reset of like, no, this takes hard work. Like the will to win precedes the win, right? And
That's right.
The will means I got to show up in the weight room. I got to show up in the classroom. I got to do all these things right.
The investment should match the expectation.
Yes.
And it's not guaranteed.
Right.
It's not guaranteed.
And it's still not guaranteed. It never is. So that's life.
But,
right?
and as a life lesson, I have kids that were on 2-win teams, 3-win teams that are very successful in life. And they will tell you the reason why is because of what we did, on those Wednesday afternoons in August when no one else was watching. That's where character is built. That's where intestinal fortitude and all that good stuff, resiliency. That's where those words come into play. And that's why coaches today, someone sent me something the other day about John Gruden, and he went and he spoke at Wisconsin. It's great. If you can find it on YouTube, it's fantastic. But he goes and he pumps these kids up, and he talks about those things, investment and team first, and all of these four things that make you successful. And as great as John Gruden was, he won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
He was fired from a couple of jobs too, right? And but now what did he do? He transitioned. Now he's doing something different, and he's still bringing that message to young people. And I think there is a lot of buy-in, but you have to figure out kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Right? And that whole adage about, I care about you as a person, I want you to feel safe here. I want you to feel like you're part of something here. And my dad used to tell me all the time when we were in high school, I said, I don't understand how this young man he's coming back day after day, and he's probably never going to see the field. And he told me, there are different levels of players. Some kids, they just want to put the jersey on. They just want to be a part of something. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. And so, I kept that in mind when I came and coached here. There were kids that the parents would say, why is my kid not in the game? And to tell them, he doesn't want to go in. He doesn't want to play. Yeah. He's, but that's hard sometimes.
But they want to be in that environment and be part of.
Be part of something. Yeah. Be part of something.
And it keeps them on the right path.
For sure.
School, the structure, all that stuff.
100%.
All right. So we've talked about your advice to a young athlete, young coaches, and now let's talk a little bit about that legacy, whatever you want to share in terms of like what you hope people remember of your time as a head football coach in Nashua, here at Nashua North.
Oh, wow. I just hope that the kids that played for me and the kids that I taught, knew that I cared, knew that I wanted what was best for them, and knew that the end game wasn't always about wins and losses. It would have been great if it was. Yeah. But there was more to it than just those things. It's bigger picture type stuff. When you're a young person, you don't see past the blinders. But when you get vision like this down the road, vision is important. And as a coach, as a teacher, I hope the kids know that I cared. I hope the kids knew that I worked as hard as I could to prepare them each and every week, not just for the team that they were going to play, but to any situation they may have faced at home, in the real world, at their job. And I tell all my kids in class these same things. I said, it's not just about, textbook. It's not just about X's and O's. It's about life real skills. World life skills that translate, that you can use in the real world. And nowhere is that more evident than when, I think I told you about the young man that called me from Afghanistan on Thanksgiving Day. Kids that I see that were maybe not on great teams, but they've made themselves great businessmen or great husbands or great fathers. And they thank you when they come back, and that means something. And I have students that, I wouldn't have thought in a million years, and they send you an email, they send you a note thanking you for the things that you did. And really, that's what helps you recharge the battery. And I hope that kids know that I cared and I gave them a fair chance. And you know what? Also know that we all make mistakes. People, gosh, we should have done that and not this. We should have gone that way and not that way. And you can always learn from your shortcomings. You can always make yourself better. Don't stay the same. You get better or you get worse, right? And as a human being, you should always be trying to get better in everything that you do. And I hope that those are the things that we instilled in the kids. I hope they know, when they come back and when we see them, that they were part of something. They were part of something good and something that...
especially in those early years, because you had the Nashua North.
That's right.
Like that's unique. That's very unique.
There aren't a lot of places that have that at the Division I level, and to kind of go, you still had the 14 playoff.
Usually, they start in 4, 3, 2,
or even a club level, or you play down a division, JV or whatever. And no, we were right into the fire, and okay, let's go. Let's go full steam ahead and put our best foot forward and see what happens.
Good. So you want to take a look?
So that football right there, you can kind of see it on the white stripe. Barack Obama signed that. It is faded with the light and the sun and everything. Below that, that's Kendall Reyes. Kendall Reyes played here 2004, graduated here, and was the second round draft pick for the San Diego Chargers.
Wow.
Has his own bobblehead, so he's made it. We took great pride in the UKICA award winners. We had a lot of UKICA award winners. These trophies here, all from Thanksgiving Day games down below that. And
they got your helmet.
There's the helmet that you and I wore back in the day. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So some good stuff. And we also took some, there's some freshmen. They run a freshman tournament at Alvern every year. And we have a couple of trophies in here from that freshman tournament. And those are the years 2 years later, our teams ended up being pretty good. This young man here.
They do a great job.
Brad Zapenis played for the BC Cubs, but he was a BC guy. And he played football for you. He scored a touchdown on Thanksgiving Day. He was just a good athlete. And talk about communication skills. He was a young man that his junior year, he decided he was going to focus on baseball only. But he didn't just not show up. He made a meeting. He said, "Coach, do you have some time tomorrow after school? I'd come in and talk to you." Absolutely. He was that kind of kid. And I was so proud of him, not for just doing this stuff, but for the fact that you were mature enough to come in and let me know that you weren't going to play and
He didn't want you to hear.
Well, that's something that you love to see kids have the ability to do. It's in his wheelhouse, and you'd love to see that communication with all your kids. It doesn't always happen that way, but so
all right,
good stuff.
So here we are.
This is it. These are the championship plaques, and these are all the individual titles for kids for swimming and track and stuff like that. And they just redid the track down there. I don't know if you saw it, but
it looks like they're redoing a lot of stuff here, the parking lots and paving and everything.
But as I said, I don't know if you looked down there, no shade, none.
I did. It's like this is going to be hot,
and they're a dead hot sun. So.
Well, I think I want to thank you, Coach, because, this is exactly, again, what I was hoping it would be. Easy conversation, just another football coach, another two guys with passion for football talking about things we love. And I learned a lot more about you now, and I think I got a new friend.
Yes, sir.
And
absolutely.
And it's good to see, I'm always touched by guys that dedicate a good portion of their life to giving back. And while a lot of people think that being the head coach is all glamour.
I assure you it's not.
Must be. Yes, it's a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and there's a lot of small conversations coaches have with players and other coaches, and because you're developing young coaches at the same time too.
I have a lot of guys that are coaching now, coaching all over the state.
You're giving back in so many different ways, which I think is a lot of sort of unreported, which is why I wanted to do a lot of these things, to give a voice and platform for a lot of coaches to get their story told. And I really appreciate you spending 2 days with me, actually.
Well, and we had weather on both ends of the spectrum, right? We had a deluge and a heat wave. But
rain and 70 degrees, and today it's 94, which is why we're inside, everybody. But
Pete, you do a great job, and I'll just tell you that flat out, I think you're coaching now, you see it firsthand. You remember when you played and you went back and talked to the guys that had an impact on you. Those are the same kind of guys that I played for growing up, all the way through from Pop Warner on through college. And then those guys made a difference. And if young coaches can watch this and maybe get a feel or a thought, and you know what, we're dinosaurs now, right? And so those guys don't know what they're talking about. But maybe, and as I always used to say, if you can go to a clinic and pick up one thing, it was a beneficial clinic. And so for any young people watching or any young coaches watching, if you can take one thing and apply it, you know, and don't be afraid to communicate with your coaches too. That's the other thing. Kids should not fear their coaches, because we're here to help. I still tell kids today, at the end of the day, if you need me to call a school, if you need me to write a letter, if you need, even though I'm not coaching anymore, you know, I still do that for kids, you know, because they're my students as well. Recommendations. I mean, you know, been there, done that. You know, not my first rodeo. So happy to help in any way that I can. And this should help folks. And if you don't like it, just hit the mute button.
Right. Rich, by the way, folks. So again, Pete Hansen Football, been spending some great time with Coach Jason Robie here, Nashua North Titans, and 10 plus years of coaching, right, Coach? And
20 overall.
20 overall.
But 10 here at North.
A lot 11. Of dedicated, a lot of time spent giving back, which I really appreciate. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed watching this. If you did, hit like, subscribe, share it, all those good things. And we'll see you around for next time. This is Pete Hansen Football signing off.
Take care.